Hello, and welcome to this week's Coronation Street Spoilers. Week commencing the 13th of November 2023.
Bernie breaks the news to Paul and Gemma that she's up in court for handling stolen goods. On Joel's advice, Bernie pleads guilty. Paul, Gemma and Billy reel in shock as the judge states that given her record, they have no other option but to impose a custodial sentence. Paul's devastated and begs the judge to reconsider, telling her about his MND and how he needs his mum. Meanwhile, when Asha reveals she's meeting Isla, Nina reminds her they're meant to be spending the day together. Amy and Asha discuss the anti-spiking demo that's due to take place in town. Nina's put out that Asha never mentioned it to her. As Asha and Nina enjoy drinks at the Chariot Square, Asha's horrified to see Courtney and Darren together and leaps to her feet, accusing Courtney of cheating on Ardy. When Nina explains that Ardy and Courtney split 2 weeks ago, Asha's outraged that she kept it from her. Elsewhere, Amy bumps into Kate in the cafe and recognizing her from the drop-in session, invites her back to number 1 for a chat. Pushing her coursework to one side, she assures Kate she'd like to help. Also today, Billy and Paul are loved up after a night of passion. Finally, David and Max are surprised as Audrey insists it's time she returned to work. As Amy makes placards for the anti-spiking march, Steve confides in Summer over how he's worried about Amy and wishes she'd put the same focus into her degree. As Amy, Summer, Evelyn and Cassie set off, Mason and his cronies make disparaging remarks. Amy loses it and goes to hit Mason with her placard, but a police officer orders her to put it down. To Summer's horror, Amy argues with the officer before picking up a can of paint and spraying it all over the officer's car. Amy is cuffed and arrested for criminal damage. Meanwhile, Audrey breaks the news to David and Maria that she's selling the barbers so she can afford to buy back her house and she'll be returning to work in the salon, meaning one of them will have to go. David and Maria try to talk Audrey round, worried about her health as well as their jobs. Audrey orders them out of the salon and locks the door. Elsewhere, Asha arranges for them to meet Isla for lunch, but Nina's thrown when Asha arrives dressed to the nines. Asha and Isla chat about work whilst Ardy listens, bored senseless, and Nina feels sidelined. Also today, when Sean presents Dylan with some designer trainers and reveals that he sold some of his own gear to pay for them, Dylan feels a stab of guilt. Under pressure from Mason, Dylan flogs vape pens to the other school kids. When Hope tries to buy one, Liam points out she's only 12. Mason intervenes and orders Dylan to sell her the vape. Finally, Paul and Billy tell the speech therapist they'd like to use Paul's real voice to recreate his replacement voice. Amy lies to Steve and Tracy, making out the march went well and she's off to hand in her essay. Amy assures Asha that she's learned her lesson, she'll look for other ways to make herself heard, and is off home to do some coursework. After coming across Dylan, and urging him to stand up to Mason and not be a victim, the steely Amy ditches her plans for an early night. In a nightclub, Amy watches as a guy spikes a woman's drink. Amy charges over, knocks the drink out of her hand and leads her to the ladies. Amy explains to the woman that she was raped by a man like Dan and she's trying to protect other women from the same fate. The woman thanks her and leaves. But rather than leaving herself, Amy approaches Dan and flirtily introduces herself. What is she up to? Meanwhile, Dylan is confronted by an angry Sean, who reveals he's heard about what he's been up to from Hope. He found his stash of vapes and disposed of them. Tyrone and Cassie call round and together with Sean, demand Dylan tell them who's forcing him to sell vapes. When Sean suggests that it's Mason and threatens to call the police, Dylan does a runner. As he tells Mason his dad got rid of the vapes, Mason orders him to hand over his new designer trainers. Elsewhere, Brian breaks the news to Jenny that Waterfords have put the Rovers up for sale and a property developer is hoping to buy it to turn it into flats. Also today, Ed opens a letter addressed to Norris Cole to find it contains a credit card. Secretly pocketing the card, Ed heads to a casino in town. Will the temptation be too much? Finally, David and Maria take up their roles of joint salon managers where they bicker over Vin Diesel the Weasel. Audrey advises them to pack in the squabbling or she'll be forced to pick one of them to be in charge. Asha smiles to herself when she gets a text from Isla. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss next week's Coronation Street spoilers.